Susan, I heard your family is from Poland. And Poland is a special country because when I was a student at Georgetown in Washington, D.C., I had a semester in Poland back in 1984. I got arrested in Gdansk by visiting Mr. Lech Wałęsa. And well, now it's a very nice memory. It was a special place for me. So what about your background, your family background?
So thank you for asking me about it. And I was so interested to hear about your background with Poland. So as you can probably tell from my last name, Wojcicki is a Polish last name. And my father was born in Poland, and my grandfather was a politician like you. And he was actually in the government before World War II, and he was also in the government after World War II. And so when the communists took over Poland, it became dangerous for my family, and my family had to leave. And so my father left with his mother and his brother, but my grandfather was never able to leave, and he was put in prison too. Unfortunately, he was there for many years. And when he was able to get out of prison, we were able to communicate with him via letters, and I was able to visit him once. But what I really learned from that was just during that time, it was so hard to communicate with him. Letters would be censored, and I really learned the importance of the ability to have freedom and to be able to speak your point of your mind. And so that's something that has stayed with me, is just the appreciation of that freedom. So it's nice that we share a background with Poland. I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
So what are some of the most important ways that you have seen technology enrich Japan? And how do you think we can use it to help people make it useful around the world?
Wow. 本当に、たくさんの技術がありますけども、日本人にとっておそらく一番日本社会に影響をしたっていうのは、この時間通りに物を動かす技術じゃないかと思うんですね。例えば新幹線、一日にそれこそものすごい数の新幹線が東京から、大阪あるいは博多あるいは北は東北まで走ってますけども、もうほとんど1分と、狂わずにスケジュール通りに新幹線が動く。あるいはトヨタの工場で何秒に1台というタイミングで、自動車が生産される。こう物事が時間通りに、動くっていう技術がこの日本人にその生活をこう時間通りにきちんと動かす、あるいはこう自分が、失敗すると周りの人に影響が及ぶ、だから自分の役割をしっかり果たしていこう、そういう日本社会を作る基礎になったのが物事を時間通りに動かしていく、技術っていうことなんではないかなと。それが多分日本社会に一番こう一番そこの部分で影響を及ぼしたっていうことじゃないかなと今ふと思いました。
How about the internet? How is the internet?
インターネットもそういうこの日本社会の中でもちろん情報をしっかり、シェアしていくっていう役割を果たしているんだと思いますし、それこそインターネットの世界は情報がぶつからないように、もう本当に短い時間でいろんなものをインターネットの中に発信していく、時間がどんどん短くなる中で情報がシェアされていく、日本人に合った技術ではないかなと思ってます。
Great. Well, I'm so glad. It's been incredible for me being in tech, working in technology for the last 30 years just to see how much it's changed, and how much our lives have changed. So I agree. I believe there are many big opportunities ahead that will help us live longer, healthier lives with more options and more education.
私がアメリカの大学にいた頃は、タイプライターの時代でした。だからタイプライターのブラインドタッチを一生懸命勉強して、アメリカの大学でペーパーを書いていましたけども、あの時に今の世の中がこんな風になってるなんていうのは想像もできませんでした。図書館に行って自分が調べたい本が何階のどこの棚にあるかというのを一生懸命先に調べて、その本を借りて、物事を調べてペーパーを書いていた時代が、今いろんなものがこのネットで、調べられる、短時間で調べられる、物事を短時間で調べられますから、調べる量がすごく莫大に増えて、この莫大に増えた情報の中から的確に自分が必要とするものを選び出していかなきゃいけないっていうのは、結構今の大学生大変なんだろうなと思ったりもします。
It's definitely changed. It's definitely changed, and access to information has become much more available, which is an important benefit. I also remember the days of going to the library and of the typewriters too. So I'm glad that we now have so much information available just at our fingertips.
YouTube の中でこの世界的な最近のトレンドというのはどういうことになっているんでしょうか？
Oh, so there's so many trends on YouTube. We've seen, first of all, I mean, what happened with COVID, because we were all restricted to our homes, we saw our digital lives accelerate by 5 or 10 years. And we saw so many different ways people started using the internet or creating content that we hadn't seen beforehand. It was tragic. So many kids were out of school, but at least they could do their classes online. And we saw a lot more content around homeschooling and helping kids being able to have the information that they needed. In fact, we actually worked with a number of, with some experts in your government to be able to have various content around learning and to help out of school. But we also saw a lot of content, a lot of live streaming, because people were not necessarily able to go do a lot of things, get together in groups anymore. And so we saw people do live streaming that they hadn't done before, and various concerts. So many artists didn't have a way of generating revenue, and people couldn't go and hear music anymore. And so we did some really beautiful live streams of music. And we sometimes saw artists and musicians just start playing music in their homes. And we saw millions of people who would follow them just in their homes. We also see a lot of living room. People are watching a lot of YouTube in their living room, which has been interesting and exciting for us. And then YouTube has Shorts, which is a really short form content that we're very excited about. Anyone can create content, and we see we just launched that in Japan. We're very excited about it. YouTube's about creation, and the fact that more people will be able to tell those stories, we think will be incredibly important.
このコロナ禍で教育だったり、あるいは料理だったり、本当にいろんなものに接する機会が増えました。その他にアーティストがライブのパフォーマンスができなくなった分、この YouTube でいろんなパフォーマンスを出してくるということが本当に増えたなと思ってます。エンターテインメント業界の構造がこのコロナ禍と YouTube で実は世界中に自分のパフォーマンスを見てもらえるということになって、これからのエンターテインメントの在り方というのも変わってくるんじゃないのかなと思ってます。ただ単にパフォーマンスを出していくだけでなくて、それがいろんなアーティストの収入になって、いろんな芸術が発信される、今まで気づかなかったようなことが発信されていくようになるんじゃないかなと期待をしてます。
No, we definitely have seen a lot of globalization of music and of content. And there are definitely a lot of people very interested in Japan. I think that that is a place where we'll see a lot of people wanting to watch content that comes from Japan and a lot of export of Japanese content. But we saw so much content, and you talked about cooking too. We saw a lot of cooking content. We saw a lot of home exercise content, and a lot of people talking also about mental health. That also is a really important area. YouTube is a place where people a lot of times go and look for mental health information for the first time. They might look at relaxation or exercise, yoga, and we really want to be a place where we can answer those and help people be able to learn more and find out, and talk to others and hear about others who have had the same struggles and find the best way for them to have resources to be able to address whatever their concerns are.
私も YouTube のおかげで今まで聞いたことがないようなグルジア料理を、食べてすごく美味しいということに気がつきました。人々の生活が少しずつ豊かになっている気がします。とても楽しい体験でした。
Talking about, just to change gears, I want to ask you said about the future. And so as you look to the future, what are some of the driving forces for innovation and technological developments that you see in Japan?
日本でよく言われるのが、変化をもたらすのは若者とバカ者とよそ者だとよく日本では言います。今までのやり方にとらわれない若い人のアイデア、それから今までの常識からすると、とんでもなく間違っていると思われてもそれをやり遂げる、スティーブ・ジョブスみたいな、人、それから全く違う世界から飛び込んできて、今まで常識はこうだというものを、知らずに新しいことを始める人、そういうこの新しい人たちが世の中の変化を作り出す原動力になっているというのを最近つくづく感じます。今までのやり方はこうだったというのではなくて、もう技術がこれだけ変わって新しいやり方がどんどん来てるわけですから、本当に日本の国の中でも若者、バカ者、よそ者と言われている人たちの新しいアイデアがどんどん採用されるような世の中にしなければいけないと思ってます。私がワクチンの担当大臣になって、それまで日本は1億人にワクチンを2回打つというオペレーションを紙で管理しようとしてたんです。だけどそれを紙で管理するのはとても無理だと思って、ワクチンをちゃんと誰が打ったか記録するシステムを立ち上げよう。それを2ヶ月で作ってくれたのは創業して7年目のスタートアップでした。それまでの日本の感覚では政府がやるこれだけの事業をお任せをするのはもう名の知れた大企業に任せるというのがこれまでの日本政府のやり方だったかもしれませんけども、いろんな人、いろんな企業と話をして、おそらくこれができるのはこの会社しかない、そう思って本当に新しい小さいスタートアップにこのシステムを開発をお願いをしました。当初はそんなことできるわけがないという声が非常に多かったんですけども、無事にそのシステムが立ち上がって今日本の毎日のワクチン接種の記録の管理はこのシステムでやれてます。やっぱり技術の進歩をしっかり取り入れて、昨日までの常識が今日は非常識になってる、昨日までの非常識が今日は常識になってるということを我々がもっと謙虚に受け入れていく必要があるんだろうと思ってます。
I think that's really smart. And we see here that there's so many great ideas and so many talented young people that can do a lot of new ways of thinking. And I've seen that myself just because I've been at Google so long. And when I joined Google, it was such a small little company. And so I've seen the way that small companies can do a lot, can really change some of the established thinking. I do believe that it's important to give new ideas a chance. We live in a time where there's a lot of change. Technology can change things. And so I definitely believe that it's important to give that a chance so that our society can continue to grow in new and different ways and take advantages of the technology that we have that we didn't used to have. So it's an exciting time.
もう一つ日本でこれからやらなければいけないのは、もっともっと日本によそ者、外国の人に日本社会に入ってきてもらわなければいけないと思ってます。日本の企業を見ると、大体日本の企業のトップは日本人で、男性で、55歳以上で、多くの場合大学を卒業してその会社に入ってずっとその会社の中で偉くなってトップになったという人が非常に多いんですけども、もっともっと違う人間を日本の企業に入れて違う考え方、違うアイデアというのを出していかないといけないんだと思います。特にこのデジタルの時代は変化がものすごく激しいですから、いろんな人をいろんなところから招くことができる社会というのが強くなるんだと思います。そういう意味でこのコロナが終わったら日本社会をもっともっと開いていかなきゃいけないと思ってますし、逆にこうやってオンラインで普通に話ができるということをみんなが分かりました。テレワークで仕事ができるということをみんなが分かりましたんで、日本の企業に外国の人にどんどん参加をしてもらうというのは今まで以上に簡単になったんだと思います。そういうことをもっともっと進めていく必要があるなと感じてます。
I see that here even in Silicon Valley that so many people come from all over. Silicon Valley is made up with people who come from all over the world and they all have different ideas. Sometimes those ideas sound impossible at first. They sound like, oh, this can never happen, but it can. And I've seen that firsthand, how you can see ideas that are, that are new and they're different, but they actually have happened and they've changed the way that our world works. So I've seen that just in my lifetime. And, and I didn't think that, I don't know, I never thought that I would see the world change so quickly, but it really is changing. And I also believe that it will continue to, that the technology that we have now is just the foundation. It's just the basis. When we look at the next 10 years or 20 years, I believe there'll still be many, many inventions and ways that it will improve our lives across so many different areas, whether it's the areas of medical or health, like telehealth is something that we didn't really have before COVID. Right now, all of a sudden, we have a lot more opportunities with doing all kinds of technology, and then machine learning, AI, all of these will be really valuable in helping so many ways that we make decisions better and faster. So I'm optimistic about the future, and it's nice that to hear the focus you have to enable new thought and new ideas and to really be able to take advantage of the times and the right technology. Thank you so much. Thank you. I learned a lot about your approaches, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you on information about COVID, about storytellers in Japan, digital transformation. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to more work together.
これからもどうぞよろしくお願いします。一緒にコロナをやっつけるために戦っていきましょう。
We'll continue to work together.